In April 1995, musicians, friends, and fans gathered at the Highlander Folk School in Tennessee to celebrate the memory of Ralph Rinzler, champion of American folk traditions. Ralph was a musician, a promoter, and a manager whose greatest contribution was in helping us all realize the potential of one of America's greatest treasures, her own indigenous music. Now, at this small gathering in Tennessee, we put on a festival like the many he created in his own lifetime, raising our voices in song, in testament to Ralph's tireless work in getting recognition for American folk culture.
Ralph's father was a doctor and his mother was a teacher. It was an upper middle class home in New Jersey, and I think the turning point for him maybe was Swarthmore College.
I met Ralph either in the spring of '55 or '54, and that was a time when a number of us who were at colleges from all over the East Coast would rattle down to Swarthmore in whatever transportation we could find. And you just hope that you could get into the festival. I was standing there in the line, shivering, waiting to register. And this very tall man ahead of me with sandy hair and very lanky turned around and he said, "Hello, I'm Ralph." And that was my beginnings with Ralph. I had a scooter at the time, and we drove all over New England on it, finding places where we could stop and play, and, you know, with a guitar on one side and banjo on the other.
Bob Yellen, the banjo player, and myself, we went to a party. I don't remember exactly where it was. And there was this mandolin player, and he was terrific, and he was really excited about it. We started picking and getting along real good, musically and personally. And we said, we need another person for the Greenbrier Boys. We know would you be interested? And he was very interested. This was Ralph Rinzler. That's when things really just started to happen for us.
When Ralph joined the band, he brought something totally different to our band. He brought his full knowledge of American traditional music, of old-time music. He, particularly with John, but they would spend hours listening to records and finding the material that ultimately gave the Greenbrier Boys, if we ever had any kind of a different sound or flavor or appeal to northern audiences, that's what did it. And it was mainly through Ralph's efforts that happened.
In 1959, we decided to go to the Union Grove Fiddlers Convention in Union Grove, North Carolina. I went in and there was this crowd of people standing around this old-timey banjo player. I asked one of the people, I said, who's that? And they said, Tom Ashley. So Ralph made a date to come and record Tom Ashley. And when he got there, of course, Doc Watson was in that band. He came back sometime later and said, John, I have discovered a guitar player that the world is not going to believe.
Ralph set up my very first solo concert tour and went with me on the most of it. I was scared to death, but he'd encourage me, you know. Stage fright about killed me, but Ralph made it easy. All he did was see that the sound was right and encourage me to do what I naturally would do, not to try to change it or fancy it up, just to play it like I always did in the old-time way, simply and down to earth. And he said, they will accept it. And you know, they did. I fully believed in what the man was doing. He just said, we want to get the old-time music heard. It may not sell, he kind of laughed, may not sell a dime's worth, but We want to get it heard by people who have never heard it. We want to take folks back to their roots, where the music came from, if you will. He was, except for my son Merle and my sweet little wife, Ralph was maybe the best friend I'll ever have in this world.
He was getting involved in the revived Newport Folk Festival as a board member, and both he and Mike Seeger had a lot to do with bringing a lot of the traditional artists to the Newport Festival.
They just had one big stage and one big audience. We said to George Wein, people want to get close to this kind of music. It's not big band music. Why don't you have a whole lot of things going on during the daytime? We'll call them workshops. And he put Ralph in charge of organizing the daytime workshops. There'd be 5, 10 different things going on at the same time. So if you wanted to hear some American Indian singing, you go there. If you wanted to hear some Slovakian dancers, you'll see them, they're over there. And children's songs over there, and some blues over here, and some gospel over there, all at the same time. After a year or two at Newport, Ralph went down to Washington, D.C., and under a man named James Morris, I believe, they started a performing arts division of the Smithsonian Institution. Ralph told me that when Ripley was made secretary, his first orders, his very first thing, he said, you know the statue of Smithson that faces the museum? Turn it 180 degrees. This institution is going to reach out to the American people now. And that was a fundamentally important decision, and Ralph helped the Smithsonian do this with the annual Folk Life Festival.
When Ralph had an idea, and God knows he had many of them that he wanted to see worked out, he had to hustle and get the endowments and the contributions that were necessary for these ventures. And he did that, and he did that with great style and with a lot of success, as you know, because we would never have had that great Folk Life Festival on the Mall without the endowments necessary for it. Because he would go to a town like, say, Seattle, and come back with 5-figure endowments.
When he was asked to do the festival in Washington, he said, no big names. I don't want any revival musicians that are going to draw an audience because they know them and their records. I only want traditional music.
I know that as tribal people, we have every reason to be suspicious. And we still are, many of us. Hopefully we grow old enough and wise enough to know who our friends are. And Ralph was certainly a friend to our folks. When he would come into the Indian area, I would find that it was most often the elders that he would approach first. I respected him because he respected our older folks.
Mo Ash was a fellow that owned Folkways Records in New York. And Mo was one of the first people to record Pete Seeger and Woody Guthrie and Lead Belly. And it was sort of his life's work. Ralph decided that if he would like to buy Folkways Records for the Smithsonian and put out a video and a recording of all these people either singing a Woody Guthrie or a Lead Belly tune. And sure enough, he raised the money and bought Folkways for the Smithsonian Institute.
He recognized the value of that, fought, and got that collection acquired, and now we're hearing it on CDs, and we'll have them forever now. Thank you, Ralph.
I think we can all learn from Ralph his refusal to give up, his refusal to say, oh, there's no hope. He kept reaching out for beauty and steadfastness in every corner of this country, in every corner of the world. And now that Ralph's gone, his thousands of friends know that they've got to carry on this work. and show everybody in the world what beauty there is in human beings.